To be here. So even more excited to be here with my friends Kelly and Jason. You know Kelly from almost every other Thursday, and Jason's been really pairing up well with Dave Snell. Dave and Jason have so much in common as far as the military background and their desire to help veterans uh, integrate back into civilian society. So I think that's so noble and worthwhile. And I know Kelly and Christy are doing such a fabulous job with the Awesome Journey, which also touches to a larger degree on military and first responders. So, you know, this is a program and a collection of people who really do care and act on what they care about and who they care about. So I think that brings us to today's subject, which is collaboration and how we can leverage it, especially on LinkedIn, to take it forward to the next level. So Kelly, how is collaboration working for you and how do you see it working for others?
Oh, wow. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are tuning in from. Yeah, collaboration. What a fantastic word, because that's what this little thing called LinkedIn is, or should be. I mean, it is networking, but it is collaboration. I mean, and the mention of the awesome journey that came off of a collaboration. Someone that I literally connected with on LinkedIn 15 years ago. I had an idea, reached out and ran the idea, and and so birthed the awesome journey. And same with you, Dawn, what you do here. And I say this all the time, regardless of what other live shows that I've done or go to or other collaboration. I'm like, LinkedIn, everyone is 6 degrees of separation from Dawn Cohen. Because somehow we all met here. But one of the things that's been coming up lately, and Jason, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, which I think is so great, is I'm hearing a lot of people using the term heart-centered collaboration, that they're wanting to work with people who do have their hearts, their passion. It's not about a transaction, which I think is wonderful. And an example of collaboration, because I have people on an occasion will be like, oh my God, I can't believe that you just did this connection for me. This is awesome. Thanks so much. We haven't spoken in 6 months. Because I'll meet new people and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I've got to hook them up with Jason. And I do that all the time. And even someone this morning who has been on the show, Clint Hatton, so shout out to you, doing a couple of connections with him. And he's now doing some other speaking events and has joined another speaking platform. But that's what collaboration does. You want to do things to help others be the best versions of themselves. It doesn't have to be, and in my opinion, and it shouldn't be about you. I don't know. That's what I think. Like, hey, if this is a good fit, wanted to make you two aware of each other, connect with each other, and then really to, I guess now, really get more into the collaboration part. And I'll toss it over to you, Jason. Is the beauty of collaboration is knowing that when I come to the table with a group of other people, I don't know everything. I mean, I say all the time, I don't know everything about anything. But true collaboration is being around others who have experienced things or have done things and doing lives. And we talk about this live streaming. Why wouldn't you want to talk to someone who's been doing it, 750 times or 200 times? To help you speed through the process, because we learn from others, just in life in general, but certainly through any kind of task or tool that you want to add into your strategy. Is that's what LinkedIn is all about, is collaboration. Who can I connect with, talk with, that can help me, and can I help them? I mean, I'm the same. If I'm in a collaboration, I want to be sure that I'm bringing value to the rest of the people or person that is in that group. So those are my thoughts to start with, and I will turn it over to you, Jason.
Thank you so much. And it is great to be here with both of you and Kelly. Like we were talking offline a little bit about how we've connected in different ways, but never here. So it's exciting that it lined up. Yeah, this is something that's very close to my heart. And this is something that Don, we talked about when we have these conversations, I'd rather talk for 3 minutes 10 times than 30 minutes all at once. This is going to be a tough one because I'm very passionate about this subject to rein it in. First thing I do want to say is kind of joking. I do have mic envy, Kelly. I just want to say I do love that. I am looking at getting a better mic, and that's pretty exciting. But the one of the sayings that I'll start with is that if you want to have a friend, be a friend. I think that's the key about collaboration, is that if you want to collaborate with people, you have to be giving, and I know you had Bob on here, Don, about, the go-giver, and that's so important about, giving, how much you give, how much you get back, and it's reciprocal, and you have to be open to receiving as well. You mentioned heart-centered, and I think that's the key, is that you have to be honest and authentic in your collaborations. It just smells the pitch slap, as they say, not to be offensive, but you can smell that from a mile away, and people are unauthentic. Yeah. And it's like, oh, hey, let's connect. And then you're like, okay, sure, I'm open. And then you have something in your inbox and you're like, hey, I could help you and I could sell this. And you're like, I had someone the other day reach out to me and said, hey, do you want to become a coach? Do you want to learn how to do this? And I was like,
it's a great idea.
Did you look at my link before you reached out to me? Because I've been in this industry for 20 years, but okay. So, but collaboration is very important. And to your point about being what they said is heart-centered, is coming truly from, like, I want to give and I want to show up, and it's okay to take. That's the other part of that, is it's okay to say, be open to what shows up. But I think if your first thought is, I'm going to collaborate so I get something back, it's not honest, and there's a little lack of integrity, I think, a little bit. We're in business. I think everyone, LinkedIn is a business platform. I have my business, you have your business, Don has his business. I think the reality, though, is that another saying, I love my sayings, is, and it gets put to a lot of different places, but if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that's what we're all looking for, I think, on LinkedIn, is let's all go together and let's go far. And I'll leave it at that for now.
Well, you both make such beautiful points because you're both living it and experiencing it. And that's the difference about being on the ground versus being high up and looking at it from a larger angle and missing the detail. And collaboration is really the beginning, where the sale pitch, let's say, is at the end before the beginning, right? They just bypass getting to know, getting to build relationships, and do you want it or not, whether you even knew it was coming or whether it even applies to you, because they are superficial, they are insensitive to other people's feelings and thoughts. And collaboration is meeting as an equal together at the beginning. Right? So how do I put something in relationship to what you put in, and knowing that the next put in will be different than the first one based on how that went. So quality experiences tend to build more quality experiences, and one's unselfish nature shines through, because it's rare compared to most people's selfish nature. And if you're a giver, like you mentioned, Bob Berg, and you enjoy giving, there's a satisfaction in itself by the activity. But it also shows that you're setting the precedent, and you're the one reaching out and saying, hey, can I help you? Hey, I see something that might be a benefit to you. And it's not a sales pitch, it's a benefit to you with no anticipated return for me, but it's truly an investment in the other person and the potential relationship. And the nice thing is, whoever goes first learns fastest, and it's easier to give a little fast and find out it was better than giving a lot later and qualify the person. Dennis is here. Dennis is here quite a bit. Always appreciate Dennis. It does show chat does work. Let's agree and go together and collaborate regardless of the weather. And people have done this, have found so much success and satisfaction from it. So it's not like flip a coin, do this or that. It's really best practices. And, how do you want to be treated is how you need to treat others, and how you have to be a little more considerate, thoughtful, because some people are at different levels, at different situations. Dennis comes back with agree, givers gain and feel less pain. Absolutely. So, Kelly, how do you build on what we've got going today?
Yeah, I mean, so many great points. And I couldn't help but, while both of you were speaking, as to, LinkedIn as far as community. I think such an important factor within a collaboration, group, it is having that sense of community, because where we feel safe and supported, we're more apt to take risk that we wouldn't do if we didn't have that safety and support. And I think the other part is too is, having, when you feel that safety, and I've led my teams with this, being in the creative marketing space for the majority of my career, is allowing them safety to throw their ideas out, because we're all meeting as equals. Doesn't matter if on a organization chart that I'm the superior, we're all the same, because nothing gets done without the entire group, team or collaboration group, is having the freedom and the safety to throw out your ideas, because even though it may be half baked, quarter baked, maybe not even beginning to be put in the oven, um, that may spur something in someone else that goes to a place that we never would have imagined. And I think that's part of a beauty of collaboration too, not just the speeding up process. Like, hey, how can you help me? Like, hey, I'm trying to figure out this restream thing, and I'm not really sure what I'm doing wrong, but I'm struggling with this. Well, hey, let me explain to you what I found worked best, or my best practices. Um, because that does help you speed it up. But then there's that other part of it of, hey, I'm trying to think about doing this. And how everyone puts their little thoughts or pieces, and maybe this goes back to your rock soup story, Don, uh, that when you put something out there, you never know what's going to come back when everybody is there for the end goal of really helping one another. Or the greater good of the group, because the group could be the collaboration could be focusing on one goal, and you do want everyone to focus on that. And I do have to say, Jason, like, pitch slap is like my thing. I post about, because it drives me nuts, and I try to tell people all the time, stop it. Like, it's ineffective, and not only is it ineffective, you are losing opportunities, because you're closing the door forever, because we find it annoying. And it's not just because I'm a marketing executive and I understand that I can smell it a mile away. Other people can too. And I always use the example of it's like energy, right? If we're sitting across each other from a desk, and I lunge towards you very quickly, your response is going to be to pull away. Well, that's what you're doing in everyone's inbox when you're trying to sell me or solve a problem that you don't even know I have yet. And as a great example, I got this morning, as a matter of fact, for the awesome journey. Someone saying, "Hey, I've got a sales team that can be dedicated to helping leads to help you increase your revenues." And I'm like you, Jason. I was like, "Well, clearly you didn't read the page. It's a live stream, you moron." um, but it's the point is, in that is, now you've shut the opportunity, because that person, I'm not connecting with them, because they're not trying really to make a connection, they're trying to make a transaction. um, you don't know what could have happened had you approached it and trying to make it about a relationship, which is what a collaboration group is. It is about creating the relationship. Hey, I may not be able to directly do work with you, or us help one another in monetization, or creating increased revenues, however you want to state it. But I likely will know someone, or we'll have another meeting where I'll be like, hey, who you've got to connect with is Jason. That's a priceless lead gen when you've got someone else that is saying that. So I'm just reiterating the fact, people, stop the pitch slap. It's ineffective. You're losing opportunities. It's not just that you're gaining a few people in that big net you're casting. You're closing a door to other opportunity, which is just, that in itself is inefficient. So um, that's free collaboration group feedback right there for you.
Well, Jason, what do you have to say about expanded collaboration?
I think it made some great points, Kelly. Thank you. And I want to add on to it, talking about being safe, having a safe space within collaboration. And I think where that comes from, and I want to make 2 points, one about like what we're doing right here, and then also about, when you make connections and when you are looking to collaborate or connecting people, I think you have to be very open and honest about that relationship.
Mhm.
Like all of my years in working in business and before I got into my business, I would always, someone ask for a referral and I would say, well, I don't feel comfortable. And I would tell people, I don't feel comfortable doing that at this point because I don't know you that well. I haven't worked with you that much. But I would also give the raving reviews for people, be a raving fan, as they say, for people that I did work with and I did support. And people knew, oh, if Jason recommended him, he does recommend him. A lot of times people will just pencil it off. And that's the same thing with collaboration. Sometimes, like I'll look and see if someone wants to connect. I'll glance and say, okay, who else are they connected with that I know, and do I trust them? And if it's someone that has, it's someone that might just take people for those numbers, I'm like, well, let's look deeper. Or if it's someone that I know that I respect and I trust, like, the folks sitting here, I'll be like, oh, of course I'm going to connect with them. I know that they're good people. So being open and honest about what level you're at. Like I connected someone that she came onto the program. She just made a comment, had some issues. And I connected her with somebody that I know that thought could help her. And I told them, I don't know her. She just showed up, but I think it might be a good collaboration, something for you to look at. If you're open to it, here's her information if you want to look at it. He got back to me and said, oh yeah, definitely. I'll connect with her. I got back to her and said, hey, he's open. I think he could be helpful to you. I've known him for a long time. He's a great guy. He's in your industry, whatever, and made that connection. So I think it comes from respecting these connections. The other thing I wanted to say is like, how do the saying is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
Us sitting here right now, I think hopefully is a venue for that. We're talking about people going into your direct messages and just trying to sell you something. If I don't know you, I'm less likely to want to work with you, even if it is legitimate.
Mhm.
But if I've seen you on a program, I've seen you talk, I've seen your videos, I've interacted with you, it's already built in. And maybe I've never actually talked to you person to person, like, thank you, Kelly, you connected me with Jason, another Jason, and we're going to meet and see if it works out. And that's a great opportunity. And that's a connection through a connection that makes sense. And, he can see us talking here and I can see his other program that you do with him. And it just adds value to everybody.
Well, I think what we need to always remember is there are no absolutes. So collaboration works at different levels at different times.
Mhm.
And you're not really collaborating with anybody until you've gotten acquainted and got a little bit of trust built up and confidence. And everybody else is a stranger until they're not, or until they prove they shouldn't be.
Right.
So what I loved about LinkedIn is there is some method to the madness. There is some science to the art. And it's really identifying those people and putting them in a special category. And that's what we do on the program, because you see the same 6, 7 people. Why? Because they've proven themselves to be great for this show. So many people are just looking for new faces, new stories, new everything else, but it doesn't stick. It's like introducing somebody to somebody that you'll never see again. Well, it's nice to get to know you, but that's as far as we're ever going to be versus, hey, there's possibilities. And, gentlemen like Bob Berg, I've got a great relationship right now, but I don't take advantage of it by saying, hey, come on next week, come on next week. It's like when I find the right pairing, when I find the right subject, I'll invite Bob back. Having people like Todd DeWitt, people like Ford Sykes, who actually collaborate and know Bob Berg, makes so much sense to say, hey, I'll pair you up with somebody you already know and like and trust. And I think that's where it comes in. So you don't need a lot. You just need a lot of time and thought together in order to figure out what's next. And that takes the pressure off of you, because if you're a one-man show every day, what do you do and what don't you do? When you're part of a collaboration group, you get to the point where, hey, Harvey just figured something out. Well, referring people to people is one thing, but referring people to strategies or activities, because we're in a huge ocean here. No one has to be territorial. No one has to be defensive or possessive. And if they are, they're cutting themselves off from the opportunity. They think they're saving their greatest stuff for someone else who isn't there yet, may never be there. And you find out you don't know that much. I mean, the older you get, the more you figure out how much you don't know. When you're really young, you think you know everything and you can't be taught anything. And maybe that's the benefit of youth, and sometimes ignorance is bliss. But I do believe, it's like building a solid wall. It's one brick at a time placed in the right place that will stand the test of time and will also distinguish you from the others. After 700 of these shows, you get to know every nuance, every facet, every little element. And it takes you to a different place, because once you gain control, once you understand if you press this button, this will happen. When you invite that person, that could happen. It's magic. And how much do you need? Once you get enough, then your perspective changes. So why not start with the sense of abundance? That it's all out there. Am I up to taking advantage of it? And most people have to learn before they earn. But because they have to earn, they forego learning and they jump in too quick, get aggressive, get ambitious, and it does ring really badly. Dennis comes back with agree we need to relate to our relationships because it is too late to collaborate. And you know what? Work with who you have when you have them the best way you can, because that's good practice, keeps you in the game, and you never know what you don't know. And one connection, one phone call or Zoom call could change everything. And you're right, people see you over time. They may not reach out to you, they may not give you feedback, but you're building trust, you're building exposure. And that's what you want to do, because you'll never lose that. One last thing is the people who do send you these unsolicited, unwanted messages, they're part of the message, right? So every time you ever get another message, you'll see the prior message that says, I wanted to sell you something. It's not like you walk by the street, someone says you want to buy some flowers, you say no, and it never goes any further. So you really do leave your fingerprints everywhere. And, the key, I think, to Kelly's point, is it really working for you? Mm-hmm. And usually people who are, stuck in a hole, the first rule is stop digging. Don't dig harder, So Kelly, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so many great points that you both just made. And the one that's standing out right now after what you were just saying there, Don, is we smell desperation, and desperation does not smell good. So when you're trying to make the close before you even know anything about the person on the other side, it just smells to high heaven, and it's not going to work, and it will not work. And I will even go back to a basic. So this is another freebie collaboration thing to throw out there. People do not buy your widget, service, or thing that you have. They buy you. And if you feel aggressive to the person, that energy that makes them want to pull away, they're never going to buy from you, because it is about you. And if you're trying to make that transaction be the number one goal, it doesn't feel good to the end user, and it never will. Again, you may pressure someone into finally falling for it. And then to go to Dawn's point too about the email strings, I'm all for automation. Automation is a fantastic thing when used properly. But when I can see you sending me the same after, every third day, I just so happen to get an email, hey, just bumping up to the top of your inbox. I know it's not you. And I know it's not you for so many other reasons too. But so it's the authenticity thing, obviously for the win. And then really to go back to one of the things that Jason said was, I'm the same. Even if you send me a personalized message, but you're wanting to jump on a call immediately out of the gate, I may be kind of like, well, wait a minute, do we need to jump on a call? Like, I don't know what you do yet. You don't know what I do yet, which is clear based on what you wrote. Because I never feel like there's depth when people look. Just because you know the name of the top business within my profile or top thing that I do, you haven't taken the time. And I will say one of the things that I have loved, and people will say, well, you do these LinkedIn lives, but how are you monetizing? It is a question that comes up a lot. I'm like, well, it depends on your strategy. Like everybody would have a totally different strategy based on what their goals are. I can personally say, yes, it has gained me work because people be like, oh my God, I see you in my feed all the time. And I just so happen to notice, hey, you're in, specialize in financial services and private equity and capital markets. I just so happen to have, working with this institutional investment. Would you be interested? Sure, let's have a conversation. So it had nothing to do with my profile, had nothing to do with my resume or applying. It's just because people were seeing me in a feed, and it is that sense of credibility and trust, which you both touched on this last time around too, which is everything. We can tell when someone is inauthentic, and we chuckle about that a lot of times because people sometimes will act like they feel the audience wants them to be to gain, whatever client or prospect it is that they're looking for. But it's the same thing. People can tell that it's not real and they will repel from it. They may not be able to verbalize it, but they feel it and they will move on. So I think there was so many great things in there. And the other thing I wanted to exemplify on that Jason made a point of, which is fantastic, because I'm the same way. If you ask me to do a recommendation right out of the gate of something we've connected, I'm not doing one. I don't know you. And I'm the same. If I recommend someone for their services to someone else, it's because I can stand behind them. And I will say, I've worked with them in the past. They're fantastic. Here's what they did for me. But samey, I will do a connection of, hey, I saw this person. I don't know about their work, but it may be worth a conversation because it looks like something you need. Because I think that's about our own personal brands, integrity, all of those things. Be careful with how you use your collaboration with others. Because once you ruin that, I mean, it's hard. It's just like anything else, right? Once trust is easy to have, and I can't remember the whole quote, but once it's gone, it's lost. Like it's so hard to come back, and that's the same with integrity. So be careful with how you do that, and don't try to. You can't please everybody. There's what, 1 billion people here. I'm not trying to please them all, and we're not in competition with one another. So those are my thoughts right now.
Yeah, Jason.
Yeah. So I told you, I love this conversation. It's just, it's right up my alley and it's great. Something that I wanted to mention to go back to. So my previous career before I got full-time into what I do now was in retail leadership and sales. And I would always teach, I taught sales and I taught that. And I'm always like, do you want a sale or do you want a customer? It's easy to make a sale, but it's hard to build a customer relationship. And so you could push and push and push and press and get someone to say yes, but they're never coming back to you. They're never going to recommend you, But if you have a customer for life, or at least for a while, they're going to recommend you to 12 different people. So the saying go, or the thing show. And it just builds, and it's just the right way to do it. So it's, there's that front half, back half of it, just being a good person. We talked about earlier about being heart-centered. Just be a good person, and that's going to get you more out of this life than if you're just, I'm in it for me and I'm going to get stuff, because that's going to show really fast. Within that same frame, do you want a collaboration or do you want a task accomplished?
Yes.
Am I reaching out to someone and say, oh, I need this one thing that I really need help with my business on, so I'm going to connect with this person because I know they can help me with that, and then just take and then not give back and not check in and not really build a relationship? Or do you build a relationship that's gonna pay dividends for both of you over a long time? I think that's so important, and that gets missed. And that goes to your point about people trust you, people know you, and we all win. So I just want to mention those two things. I think it's so important that these collaborations, and it shows, people can see us talking on here, and, we could come on here and try to be fake, we're not, but, you can come here and try to show up a certain way, but it's going to bleed through. When I used to, back in my old life, I used to do interviews, and I know you come in there prepared. I know you're going to show me your best face. So I would just have a conversation and get you to just start talking, and then your real person showed up. And for a lot of people, that was a benefit because people come in their interview scared and nervous, and they're bringing a lot of that weight. But then they relax, and you see, oh, this is going to be a great fit. But then there's the ones that came in overly prepared that are trying to just wedge themselves in there, and you're like, that's who I was looking for. That's who I wanted to talk to. And that's why this is such a great benefit, because there's an opportunity to have some conversations and show people who you really are.
Yeah.
Well, and it kind of demonstrates people just don't know any better for whatever reason, either ignorance, lack of desire to get better, assuming they're all they need to be to everybody else that they need to be it with. But, it's that side that most people don't have. And if they have, they don't show. I'll give you a quick example. Ford Sykes, who's been on the show 2-3 times, just a fabulous gentleman. He gets 25 grand minimum for every speech, and he's booked for as long as he wants. He's written 7 books. He's just a wonderful gentleman. Anyways, I put him on a show with Khan, and Khan just published his 2nd book, and the big push last month was to get exposure, promote it, and Ford and him were on. And Ford spent almost all of his time going back to Khan, tell us more about the book, show us the book. And then the next time he's on, he bought the book, right? And everybody's seeing Ford as somebody who doesn't need any help speaking, doesn't need any help being who he is, but he looks so much better by helping Khan and getting in front of Khan and actually sacrificing his whole show because that wasn't important to him, because he came on as a person, as a guest, and that was it. He didn't bring everything back from the past. And it's just no different if you're in a restaurant and a husband is really kind and thoughtful to their spouse and doing special things. Everybody around them doesn't really look at the spouse, they look at the person. Wow, that person's a great guy. All right, that person, how people react to their little league kids. But the person who takes center stage, the person who wants all that exposure is insecure. I keep talking, I'm listening to Stephen Covey's book again, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of the points he made today was you're either adding to your reserve or you're withdrawing from it with everybody, right? And if you give enough over time, you have some room, right? Because people say, wow, they've done so much. Now it's their turn, or I'll be accommodating. And the other thing is you have to start with the end in mind when you start at the beginning. So if we're talking about monetization or getting value, you can't make it a puzzle for people, right? If there's something you want or need, or it's important and it's important to others, you need to continue to tell that message and not be cryptic, not just give somebody half a story, because that's what you're into, and people who are into you are into what you're into.
Yeah.
And right, being in other people's orbit is the opportunity, not getting them in your orbit, right? And I think that's a small way of looking things. So if you can elevate and be a collaborator with a Ford, with a Todd, with a Harvey, there'll be opportunities with them and within what they're doing, and that's the idea of joining a circle, building a team. Everything Harvey does for the better, I learn from. I hear, and everything I do for the better, I share. And that's the reason for our bi-weekly collaboration group. Is like everybody's got their own road, but when they come back, they say, here's what I discovered on my journey last week. Here's what I started to do differently, like today's show. This is the first show in about 3 months I didn't create an event for. Everything was an event with speakers and subject. And you know what? If you don't promote your event, you don't have an event. And what the difference is when you just go live, LinkedIn shares that with your whole audience.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's why you'll see a lag in comments, because at 9 a.m. my time or 11 a.m. Eastern, 37,000 notices went out to 37,000 people, and that's who showed up. Where before, if you don't invite people, unless they know, and some people do, where it is every day and how to watch it from your profile, you miss out. At the same time, there's so many activities one does that isn't justifiable. They're working harder instead of working smarter. They're making investments that take away from the investments they made prior to it. So I think expansion and compression is so important. Trying new things, testing new things, because this is a time when there isn't a lot of monetization. So if you're not going to gain financially, you should at least gain professionally, academically, learn as much as you can, because there's no doubt that LinkedIn and live streaming work for the people who learn how to work it. And since it's a people business more than any other business, how do you distinguish and differentiate yourself? By the way you go to work, by the way you treat everybody. They say the best worlds is when everybody is like everybody. Everybody's respected, there's some consideration, and those are attributes that really kind of fly in the face sometimes of sales technique. Because sales technique are to make sales. And you're right, Jason. When I had my business, I always said, make a friend, then make a sale. Because if you don't make a sale, you still got a friend. If you just jump on somebody, and I was in the retail, and the last thing you want to do is go up to somebody and say, what can I do for you today? And it's just like Kelly's point. I just walked in the store. I don't even know what you're selling. I don't even know what you got. Why would you ask me? Put more responsibility to say, what can I do for you? I used to always say, hey, the only rule we got around here is take your time, enjoy the opportunity. And if you ever need something, I'm available, right? And you let people alone. So, Kelly, to your point, or is it Jason's turn? I forget. I think it's Kelly. I've been trying to keep an order. Also, usually I jump here and jump there, and I forget what I'm about. But yeah, Kelly.
Yeah. So again, so many great things, and one of the things that came up during this too is I was thinking, and it's because it's happening right now with a dear friend of mine who has been collaborating and then trying to release a product that should have gone out last August, just to give you an idea. And it's almost the end of March. But sometimes a collaboration group too, or because they're collaborating together, and it's like, y'all need to disrupt that because it's not working, because you're staying flat, you're not making any forward progress. Like they're in this awful cycle. And that's the beauty in my mind of a LinkedIn and truly being a networker is going, you know what, I've been trying this and it's not working. Who can I reach out to that can help me, or go to the weekly collaboration group? Hey, y'all, I've been noticing that LinkedIn comments seem to be jacked up. Is anybody else having this issue? I want to know that it's just not me, because that is a real thing. It does happen. And I see it happen on other people's lives all the time as well. But just the point being is sometimes we do need to take a step back and say, we do need to shake things up a little bit because we're stuck. We need to bring in someone from the outside and be like, hey, here's where we are. Here's where we've been. And here's where we're stuck, and to get things to move forward. Because like in this example of this collaboration group, they're too now into a place of, because they're so late on launch, that now there's resentment involved, right? And as soon as we have kind of negative vibe coming in, you're not moving in a positive direction. You've got to bring in someone from the outside, or two, whoever it is, to shake things up and to get things back on track. Because now you're making it about your egos, which maybe was my point on this round. As a collaboration group isn't about an ego. Leave your ego at the door. It is truly, it goes back to, I think, being heart-centered. I'm here for these reasons. I want to learn. I want to help. I want to grow. And I think it's such an important thing, just in life in general, is focusing on things like, what is bringing value to my life? And value doesn't have to be financial by any means, but what's adding value to me emotionally, spiritually, and of course, financially does come in, because that does help with an overall deal with ourselves. But if it's not feeding any of those things, you probably need to take a step back and go, I maybe need to adjust my own path a bit. So I don't know why you were saying that. It just made me think the other side of collaboration and knowing when you need to bring in someone else to say, hey, we're stuck. I see this happen more though when it is one or two people or maybe three people, which is and you've got to figure out what the sweet spot is. And I think that varies depending on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Because I've been in collaboration groups that, have 12 people and have been fantastic. But then I've been in others where, they could be of fewer people and it's not as effective. But it just depends on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So maybe that's another little takeaway, right? Is to try what works for you, because the point of a collaboration group is being involved with other human beings. And not all groups of human beings are going to be your jam. And it's okay. Don't try to force it. If it's not working, go somewhere else. So maybe that's my thought this time around, is remembering that we need to be sure that it's bringing value to us in multiple ways, and knowing when to shake up the group if you need to, or move on from it, and or to know that, hey, it's not for you. You're not going to fit in every collaboration group. As much as I enjoy collaboration group, not all collaboration groups are for me, and that's okay. They shouldn't be. If you think you fit in every single collaboration group, we probably need to have a talk off screen. Just saying.
You make some wonderful points, Kelly, as always, because you can't put a roof on until you built a foundation, right?
Yeah.
And too many people are looking to get to the end before they even started at the beginning.
Yeah.
And, if you look at collaboration groups, and I'll swing it right back to Jason, is look at your company meetings, right? They're collaboration groups, right? Let's get all the salespeople in a room and let's have the sales manager or the CEO talk to everybody. Yeah. Well, you're sitting there and it's like, I can't wait to get out of here. Yeah. Every meeting we've had like this has ended with no benefit, except someone just had a chance to let off some steam or share what they had, because, there's a difference, because there's rank involved, right? When the CEO's talking and he's signing your checks, you're going to have to be accommodating. You're going to have to go along with the flow. And then 4 people are leaving. And can you believe this? We're wasting so much time. Yeah. And they're so proud when it's over. And
that good old phrase of, this whole meeting could have just been solved in an email.
Well, and that's true. But you see, that's the people who, when they get the opportunity and have experienced those nothing meetings, and the same thing with collaboration groups, and the same thing with here. If me, you, and Jason aren't making or contributing value, we have no value, because it's what have you done for me today, right? And you've got to always say, if I'm going to go to someone's house and try to become a friend, shouldn't I bring something? A box of candy, some flowers, something, just to, when I make the introduction, makes a difference. So I'll real quick. Dennis says, agree. LinkedIn not out. Omar's here. If you don't know Omar, just a wonderful person. And if I wouldn't have taken the time to get to know Omar, allowed myself to go on his shows and just see what a giving person there is, because when we're talking about heartfelt, it's your heart that is your best guide, not your brain. It's too smart, it's too logical, it'll misdirect you. But when you feel something, that tells you something. Dennis comes back with, agree, take the time to have a conversation and listen well. Remember, we have 2 ears and just 1 mouth, and you're so right. And it's hard to do because people feel they got so much to say and they got so much value. Everybody feels the same way at that time. Agree, collaborate, and be more great before it's too late. And then Carrie says, hi, Omar. So Jason interrupted the flow, but right back to you.
And that, that's a good thing, right? In collaborations, because you get in that flow, and this is kind of what Kelly was talking about. And I'm gonna go add to that, hopefully, there's times when you get in that that same cycle, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, and then, oh, this is good, and we're doing this, and it's like, but are we achieving anything? And
Yeah.
it's like it becomes a support group and not a collaboration
Uh,
sometimes, and support groups have a place for sure.
yeah.
But kind of not what we're talking about. A saying that I always get these great sayings from Don. Don's got a lot of ones as
Oh yeah.
well,
There
and
needs to be a book on it someday. Just
talking about having the right people in the collaboration. Don had said something to the effect of, the right ladder, the wrong wall. And you
saying.
might be a great person, you might bring a lot of value, but not to this particular collaboration.
Yeah.
So being aware of that and looking at that, I've been in collaborations where, and this is a little errant, but I just wanted to mention it, where sometimes people are just looking for someone to take the lead, not
Yeah.
necessarily looking to collaborate and to build together and bring what everyone brings and go together. They want someone to kind of just take it and run with it. I'm in a couple of groups, well, I'll leave it at that. I'm in a couple of groups to where it's like, I'm like, well, hey guys, I'm really busy right now with my business and this. I'm not gonna be able to do anything, but can we make sure, I just wanted to mention that we need to do this, and this, blah, blah, blah. And the response I got was, all right, Jason, I'm going to do X and I'm going to do Y. Can you make sure that blah, blah? And I was like, I just said I can't be involved at that level. I just was trying to spark the conversation that's not happening. That was my ad right now, was that, so sometimes you have to just be aware of the group that you're in and the collaboration, and then be honest. And, we've talked today about being heart-centered. So being able to say, hey, are we giving the value? Are we adding to each other? Let's revisit what's our purpose, what's our goal, and that's, I think, key is to keep these collaborations fresh and reciprocal.
Yeah, I love that. And I just wanted I wanted to say, because Omar, this is so great, because collaboration and true connection, because of course I've gotten to know Omar, same like Don, over doing these, and have been blessed to be on his show as well. But he had made a post. This is such a good example. And I didn't comment on it. And I know that he was like, oh, that's weird that Kelly wouldn't have commented on this. He tagged me, and I did not see it, but he messaged me, and he was like, hey, I just wanted to be sure that you saw this. And I, of course, was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Because you're right, I did not see it. Which is so great. But that is part of, I think, collaboration, is to be like, oh man, reminding each other or being there to help uplift one another.
Yeah.
Hey, we're not always on our games all the time. And that is part of being the group is, and at least for me, I say it's part of helping yourself stay accountable to what you're trying to achieve. And of course, to always expand your knowledge. Again, because I'll go back to what I said in the very beginning. I don't know everything about anything. And everybody's experience is different. And then, like Don said with Harvey, it's such a great example. He'll have something and bring it back and be like, oh, I didn't even think of that. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Because you don't know what you don't know. Because it's not even about what can I go ask this person. You sometimes don't even know what to ask, or what the thing is, to say, because I don't know. And if you don't know, how on earth are you going to form it into a question a lot of times? So I don't know. I think this is such a great thing, because collaboration in life is a thing, right? Of who we surround ourselves with. Because I would call my core group of people, just through this conversation, they're my people, but they collaborate life with me. They're the ones that call me out, or that are there when I need them. And like, hey, I'm not able to show up for myself right now. I need y'all to help me. That's another form of a collaboration group, that I was just thinking about. And so it is the same in business. It is an extension. And I've been having this conversation a lot since 2020, quite frankly, is being in corporate America in those horrific meetings, or the meeting that turned into another meeting and another meeting, and nothing ever got accomplished. And it's like the biggest waste of your time ever. But you sit there and go, I'm getting paid, so I guess I'll just be bored. But is after getting out of corporate America, because I was laid off, and that was a very rough thing emotionally. But my thing was, you know what? This is a time to look back and be, who do I want to have in my life? Who do I want to work with? I'm very, very proud of the things that I've accomplished and that I've done, and I've had some incredible people along the way. But I've also been around a lot of people that I do not like as human beings. And I just sort of thought, I want to start being around people that are at least more morally, ethically aligned with me, and that inspire me, not intimidate me, not try any of those tactics. So I think that's what a collaboration group should be too when you're looking for that. Who inspires you? Who motivates you? Who just because they've had higher titles or have achieved more in life, they're still human beings too, and they love to help people. Generally, they didn't get where they are by themselves, so they like to give back for the most part. So, I don't know, I think that's a component of to think about of what a collaboration group is, I guess, on a little bit of a deeper level, and what it made me think about with my having the people in my life around me on a personal level too.
Well, I think that whole aspect of a deeper level and really being in a position to say, hey, I just ate a big meal. These people need to eat, right? So when the next round comes, to give it to them, make sure they get taken care of. And the reason why is because you want to do everything you can to keep them in the game.
Mm,
The story of the golden goose. It's the goose that has the value, not the golden eggs, because without the goose, there aren't going to be any golden eggs. So you got to make sure that goose is as happy and healthy as they can be. So if you look around your group and you say, hey, this person's struggling a little bit, this person is dealing with things I know I had to deal with, why not take the time to build them up somehow, either through information or encouragement or exposure, you know? And because you're going to lose that input, you're going to lose their experience, right? I hope Zoom Party with Omar continues to grow and flourish. I'm so proud of Harvey for adding a second show coming up and expanding. And it's someone taking the initiative. At the same time, you have to again re-examine the ladder and the wall. I mean, we had the Hour of Empower here for about a year and a half every day. It was a beautiful show, but it wasn't going to lend itself to the collaborations that were valuable and important, and it had to pivot, right? And with that, you could say, well, you lost this, but no, it took that to get you to stage two. Just like
I think part of the thing, and I'll just interrupt on this and I'll make it quick. The beauty about the Hour of Empower was because I certainly didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was just being very guided to do it and enjoyed it. But the fascinating thing that you and I saw during that time period was, wow, these people from all over the world are showing up, and we're not talking about anything. And and I don't mean that to be more in the lines of Seinfeld, but we had there was no agenda, there was no word of the day, there was no anything. It was just about showing up and being there for one another. And what we found out of that, to me, which is so powerful and goes back to the being heart-centered thing, is it didn't matter where people were coming from, what their journeys were, what paths led them to here, is when you strip all the check boxes that society wants to put on each individual every day, is we all need the same things, and that is to be supported and to feel love. And that's what it was. I have goosebumps right now. So that is what it was, but it needed where we're shifting in collaboration. That's still at the foundation of it. So it was the foundation of that. So, anyways, I just think that part.
You're absolutely right, Kelly, because you have to go through something to know what you next have to go through, right?
Yes.
You won't stay in first grade forever, even though you like the teacher, you like the class, you're familiar with it, but you challenge yourself. And like a rocket ship, it always has booster rockets. And those booster rockets get it into a position and they fall off. And then the next rocket takes it to wherever it needs to go. And you'd rather call timeout on yourself than be called timeout on. You'd rather pivot at the right time. And the people, and I think Jason made an earlier good point, when you're selling something to a stranger, all they're focused on is the item and the price, right? You're not a factor. When you become a friend and get to know the person, I mean, when you get your hair cut, you could go to a million places and get your hair cut. Why do you go to the place? Because you like the person, you like the conversation, you like the environment. So people come for something, but they stay for something else, which hopefully is you. And by opening the jar, now you get a chance to fill it up. You know, you can't sell somebody something that they haven't already accepted that they need, right? You just can't come up to something, I got a TV for you, it's a great price. Well, if you go into a TV store, say I'm looking for a TV, now we've got an opportunity. So it's you being smart enough to take yourself out of a game, in a game. I'll turn it over to Jason real quick. I saw a show I've been watching, and the name was Coaches, and was on Netflix, and had the 5 best world coaches in different fields. So it had the gentleman who coached tennis for the Williams sisters. It had the coach of the soccer teams and everything else. And one thing this gentleman said, who coached international soccer teams that were just fabulous, is he said, I work with some of the best players in the world. And when I determine I can't coach them as a player, they're already superior. But I do coach teams. And where I put them, who I put them with, how I put them, makes all the difference, right? So if you're focused on the team and not one player, or, you know, and the person gets more benefit because now they're gaining exposure. And that's really the key, is people just want a true, honest voice that they can share with a true, honest audience. And once you get that, you have nothing but your own responsibility or commitment to showing up, right? It's just like going on a late show, right? You got 4 or 5 minutes. If it works, your future could be in better shape. If it doesn't, it'll be something for the rest of your life you think about. Linda's here. Haven't seen Linda in a bit, but it's always great to see you, Linda. Gosh, good morning all. Finally not in physical therapy or meeting, and couldn't get internet to let me in, and love this conversation because love finding you all to help each other and support to help people find real people out touching lives. Linda, you're so intuitive and smart in that degree, because when we talk about subjects or styles of the show, it is really just all of us coming together as people, trying to help each other, trying to give ourselves an opportunity to be helped. And it's that openness and accessibility to admit one needs help, right? And if you deny your need for help, you're not going to get very much help. So there is something to being vulnerable. And that only works when you're with a trusting, supportive environment and audience. When you find that, use it, right? If you're thirsty and you find a water fountain, start drinking. You know, don't think about what you could have had. So Jason, coming up on 58 minutes. These shows always fly by because with 3 of us, we could do an hour by ourselves and go on all day. Run out of ideas, maybe run out of the ability for audiences to weather that many hours. What's your thought? This has been a great pairing today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really invited me on, and I appreciate it. And it's great to be able to chat with Kelly and you at the same time. And it was wonderful. Speaking of which, Kelly stole a little bit of my thunder, but that's okay because we're wrapping up. But joking aside, I love what you had to say about collaboration, and that's the key. I'll try to make as quick as possible because I know we're wrapping up. But the 3 connections I talk about in the work that I do: the connection to self, connection to others, and then connection to a higher power, whatever you call that, nature, source, spirit, whatever. So collaboration is about that connection to others. We, as you know, to go a little deeper into my stuff, you know, they say we're spiritual beings, have a human experience. As a human experience, we are human animals, and we want to connect with others, and that's inherent in our genes. And if you've ever been disconnected from somebody, you felt that. And so collaboration is such an important part about that connection with others. I know people that are struggling at work right now because they don't feel that connection. So whether you have your own business, or you work in an office, or you're remote, we still need that collaboration, that connection. And that's what is all about. And, you know, I say together in community we heal, and in community we grow. And that's just what we're doing here. So thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you, Jason. You know, you saved the best for last, and I think that's so important because the last thing I would ever want to be is alone, right? Because again, if you have yourself, you have others, and you have a higher source to support you, you've got everything you need, right? If you try to go it alone, who's there backing you up? And you always like to know, hey, if this happens, I can count on this person no matter what. Yeah. I hope I never have to make that call, but I know they're there. They're going to support me. And that makes all the difference, because if you know that, you might be more courageous in doing things and not have to leverage that. Right? To say, hey, if I know I'm going to get help, why not do the last thing I can or whatever I can to make it happen? And you'll surprise yourself. So Kelly, it's always great to have you. What's your thoughts? And I find by pairing with Jason today, just like Jason and Dave, it's a whole different dynamic, right? Because different ideas from different places come to bear. And, last thing I'll say, is gentlemen like Todd, Ford, I can go on the list, Mary, keep going. I ask them, what makes you so interested on being on this show? Because they have their own shows. They're doing fantastic in their careers. And, they say, is I like to be the receiver, not just the giver all the time, right? What all you did was pitch, right? And then all of a sudden someone says, hey, why don't you take a couple bats? Right? And see what it is to hit the ball and let somebody else throw you some softballs. And, getting to challenge oneself in the moment, not knowing what some curveball is going to come your way and how you show up makes everybody, a little more refreshed because it's not typical, right? They're separated from their audience. They're sitting on a big stage with a big group and they're sharing the best they can versus challenge me, be a sparring partner for me. And I think that's where workout buddies, collaboration groups come in, is people say, I know you're a little weak here. I got something for you. Or, one last thing is you put something in someone's ear and they don't forget it, right? So if someone says, here's where I'm at, and you say, I can't really come up with anything, but I'm going to always think of that when something comes up. So Kelly?
Yeah, well, see, now that just maybe, and first of all, I could never take your thunder away, Jason. You have so much of it, which is a reminder to everyone to always connect with anyone who's on here. We're not here because we're trying to be private. But I mean, so many good things, right? I think collaboration, life is a collaboration. I mean, it just really is when we get down to it. And I'm so blessed, privileged, honored to be able to have had this come into my life for so many reasons, because so many different collaborations have come off of this that I could never have anticipated in my life or have sat down and wrote a business plan to make things happen, because some people who have come into my life are in my life forever and have become, like y'all were saying, just true friends. And what a blessing all of that is. So yeah, we could talk for hours, I have no doubt. But yeah, it's always I'm glad that I got to be here with Jason today. Like I said, I feel like I know you because I've seen you so many times, and I know you've seen me. So it just kind of, you feel that connection. Yeah. And it is because you can feel it through a screen. You can tell when someone's authentic, and Jason definitely speaks my language. So.
Well, if Jason's the thunder, you're the lightning, Kelly. So
I love that.
Collectively, but that's one last thing is what you can do to help someone pales in what a group can do to help someone, right? So collectively, everybody can do a little bit that won't hurt them too much, but collectively, and I think just people knowing people care about me, people think about me after the show is over, and they're so excited when I'm successful because it's like coming home with your report card that's all A's, and you can't wait for someone to tell you what a smart person you are, or how proud they are of you. And that money can never replace those types of feelings or activities. So I encourage everybody to find some takeaways they can apply today and come back tomorrow. We've got a new person, Kevin, actually. who is one of Harvey's friends out in England. He's into franchising and things of that nature. And that's one more thing is people's orbit becomes other people's orbit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If someone comes on here or Harvey's show and they say, hey, this is a great person, you should talk to him, get him on your show. Hey, that's another benefit. So I know we went over, but we couldn't stop. We were going so fast. We had to take it slow on the break side. So take care. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much and look forward